So in this short video, I'll be taking you through the IGCSE Geography Cambridge exam, and in particular, 7 markers for map skills from the November 2023 series of exams. Now, for many of you, 7 markers are associated with the case study questions for paper 1 of this exam. Yet, although they might occasionally ask 5 marker for map skills, 7 marks is very unusual. So in this video, I'll be taking you through how to make sure you can get up to 7 marks for each of these questions. So as you go through, you can see in the chapters that there will be the 21 paper, 22 paper, 23 paper. So again, just to recap, it is very unusual to ask 7 marks. Since 2016, they have never asked 7 marks on a map skills question. This might be something new, this might be in preparation for the new syllabus, who knows? But really, it's not as if it basically means you have to write more. So this sort of video is just giving you hints and tips on how to make sure you can get 7 marks for the various parts. Now, although I've done a video for the question paper 221 to help you revise for that, the skills still apply. The same skills that they ask, types of questions they ask across the other ones, 21 and 23, are exactly the same. So just make sure you have a go at doing those papers just to recap and refresh your mind on how to do those skills. So when approaching these questions, there tends to be 2 types: describe questions, describe and explain questions. For the describe questions, write what you see. And so 1 mark is 1 unique feature or reason. And for describe and explain questions, 1 mark you would get for writing 1 unique feature and 1 mark for explaining that unique feature. So it was out of 7 marks. For the top one, you need to write 7 unique features or reasons. If it was a 7 mark describe and explain, typically you would need 3 or 4 unique features, and then you would have a go at explaining them. But remember, this advice also applies to the similar 5 mark questions. The only real difference between these 7 mark and 5 mark questions is the extra 2 marks. It's just the extra features you need to write about. And please remember, only bullet point your response for the 7 mark and the 5 mark response if you are running out of time. Write in sentences. Do not give the examiner any reasons not to give you the full marks. So here's the November 23 question paper 2-1 paper. Describe the physical, natural and human features of the coastline shown on the map. And you can see here you need to write where it says physical and write where it says human. If it wasn't there and just said describe the features of the coastline shown on the map extracts, then you had always think physical and human, but just group it together in a paragraph. So here's the coastline. And when we're looking at natural features, handily, this key has got some natural features information that we can use. And we've got general features as well that can help us identify what humans have done to this coastline. Because remember, natural features and human features, you only write what you can see on the map. You cannot see waves. It's very difficult to see tides unless they've been marked, or water currents. When we're talking about natural features, we are talking about landforms. So for example, mudflats, wave-cut platforms, bays, coves, headlands, spits, bars, tombolos, deltas, cliff, cage, arches, stacks and stumps, beaches, and the material they're made out of. Now, human features of what humans have built, how they've changed the coastline. So it can be harbours, ports, coastal defences such as groins, offshore breakwaters, seawalls, artificial islands. So if we take those and go back to this, handily, bays tend to be marked on a map. So if we go through, you can see there are lots of bays being marked on here. They're written. So I'll put those there. As well, generally speaking, headlands are what you see between bays. Sometimes on a map, they might be referred to as points. So that's always worth to remember. So again, there are about 3 or 4 marked here. And can you see any stacks, stumps or spits? Generally, any rocks that have been found in the water just slightly off the coastline, maybe sort of slightly outwards from the point or the headland, tends to be a stack or a stump. And if we go a little bit closer to look at the sediment type that you find along the coastline, you can see here that we're using the key. There are some scree and loose rock. And if we get even closer and we go further down the coastline to the south of the map, southwest part of the map, and you can see there are some sand and shingle beaches. So going back to here, it's really simple. There are multiple bays, near the settlement of Goruk in the north of the map extract to Ludderston Bay in the southwest part of the map extract. As well, there are multiple headlands or points such as Kempot Point separating Goruk Bay and West Bay. Along the coastline there is mainly scree and loose rock and a sand and single beach in Ludderston Bay. So human features, what have we built along the coastline? And as you can see here, if we go through pretty much starting off in the northeast part of the map and working ourselves away along the coastline, you can see there are multiple piers, landing stations, ports, or a quay for ferries, jetties, slipways, and lighthouses. So if we take those even further, we can say that, we can just write that down. Around just the settlement there are multiple piers, lighthouses, and landing stages, and there are multiple jetties or slipways, 2 ports or quays for ferry ships, and several lighthouses. So if we look at the 2 parts of my answer, natural features at the top, physical features at the top, human features at the bottom, and we compare it against the mark scheme, you can see here that it is, we're ticking all those boxes. And remember, do not list. Try and write them in flowing sentences. If you're running out of time, then bullet points, but in part, try and group it all together into nice flowing sentences that you can see there. Out of the 3 7-mark questions, this one is now from the 22 question paper. This one's probably the hardest because not only it could describe questions, it was just describe 7 unique features or reasons, but you're describing and explaining. So remember, for the describe bit, tell me how the settlements are spread out around the area and explain why does the area have this pattern. So now I'm just going to go through some sort of general theory about settlement pattern, and you can use the chapters in the video just to skip through to the answer if you know it. So generally speaking, there are 3 types of rural settlement pattern: linear, nucleated, and dispersed. And so they're really helpful in basically understanding the type of settlement is really helpful in explaining the factors that affected the size and situation. So dispersed are the ones where the settlement or houses are spread out over a wide area, and they're typically homes of farmers, and they're generally obviously associated with rural areas. So that can tell you the area is remote, so agricultural area, or there are a few job opportunities. Next one is linear. That's when these buildings are constructed in lines, often next to a geographical feature like a lake, shore, or a river, or a human feature like a road. And so transport or communication is really important there. The next one is nucleated, where these settlements are grouped around a nodal point, typically due to like a church, crossroads, or an industry. And so these settlements tend to be in areas of flat relief, a bridging point, defensive position, or a good water supply. And obviously, if there's no restrictions on either side, they can spread out very easily. So if you go back to the question, the settlements. So remember, we're told to ignore Dunlop and Stewarton from the question. So the buildings are spread out. What type of settlement patterns are there? What types of buildings can you see? Are they found along roads? Are they found near rivers, streams, or lakes? So have a look at the pattern and then decide for yourself. So if I go back to the answer. So the buildings are spread out around the area, forming a dispersed settlement patterns. This is because most of the buildings are farms and so require lots of land to grow crops or rear animals. So you can see I have explained why those areas are dispersed. The farms are also found along roads. And why do you generally locate next to roads or rivers? Because it makes it easier to travel to other settlements, or they are found close to water sources such as streams, so they have a water source for their farms. So look how I've identified, described the settlement pattern described the pattern of rural settlements, of the buildings around the area, and I've explained potential reasons why. They do not have to be the actual reason, they just have to be appropriate. And for the last one, 23, describe the site and functions of the settlement of Kilwinning. So here's the settlement, and so again we're focusing on that nucleated settlement in the bottom right hand corner in the southwest part of the map. So again, a bit of theory for you, and if you don't know this, just wind on to the answer. If not, please continue watching. So the site of a settlement is the reasons why that land was chosen to build a settlement. So why did settlers choose that area of land? And there are loads of different reasons to consider. It could be due to the availability of water, and obviously you can use that to grow crops, have fresh water for transport, or to fish, obviously. Fertile soil to grow crops. Relief, generally you either want it flat because it's easy to build on, or up high so it's defensive. And then natural resources in the area to either build, buildings, sell, or to burn. And obviously how accessible is that area of land. So when it comes to the growth of settlement, why is it grown? Why is there more people? Then you've got other reasons to factor in. And I've put climate in there because really it's much easier to support areas if the climate is generally temperate, not too extreme. That is a little bit difficult to identify on a map, but it's something that you might have through images if the question was about that and had an image too. So if we go back to Kilwinning, is there availability of water when it comes to the site? Yes. Are there natural resources? Well, we can see an old mine and we can see a quarry. So that might have been a reason. The relief, is it nice and flat? Well, yeah, the contour lines are relatively far apart, so you could argue that it's generally flat, so it's easy to build on. Is it accessible? Very. There are lots of roads coming into the town and joining in the town as well. There's a nice railway station. Is there fertile soil? Well, yes, there's quite a few farms in the area, and you can see that in the southernmost part of the map and also in the north. I've just circled a few for you to give the hints. So if we're going to write my answer, we can say that Kilwinning is located to the river and several streams of water supply. The main settlement is located on the gentle slope. The land around the town must be fertile as there are several farms. As well, there's a train line that goes through the town, 2 A roads join with several B roads as well. So the next part, settlement function. Again, if you don't know this, please continue and watch. If not, wind forward to my answer. Activities that place, what is a settlement function? Are activities that are placed there that create jobs. And so below are some examples. So an area of why assessment function, or how does it create jobs for people? Mining. There might be some cultural religious aspects, manufacturing, it might be a tourist resorts, education, transport, ports, market town, admin and governments, sport, recreation. So these are all sort of things, not necessarily create jobs as well, but sort of attract people to that area to give a purpose as well to sort of think about. And throw in this one in there, residential. There might be huge numbers of people living there. That is also a function. So if we go to my map and we go through again, mining, well, yes, we've identified that earlier. Transport, certainly, huge numbers of roads, and there's a railway line, 2 railway lines that go through the town. Cultural religious, well, we can look for churches. Is it a market town? If there's lots of farms in the area, generally speaking, historically, it probably was a market town. Education, yes, there are 3 schools right in the centre. Is it a tourist resorts? Quite difficult to do. If it's near the coastline, you can probably apply it. Manufacturing, big industrial estate down there. Admin governments, where you can look for council buildings and things like that. And residential, yes, almost certainly, you can see all the buildings in the area. So again, if I brought that all together, Kilwinning has multiple functions. It is a transport hub as there are several main roads and a train stage line, has numerous schools and academies, industrial estate in the southwest part of the map, and was probably a mining town due to a disused mine, and there's also a quarry. So that's my answer. Checking it against the mark scheme, we can see that yes, we are ticking all of those boxes. And remember, I am writing everything in flowing sentences, not simply listing. So thank you for watching. Spend time identifying, and when you answer these questions, all the possible reasons that why they could be. These questions appear as 5 marks, but are now becoming longer. Take it slowly and practice. Make sure you're not just practicing these questions, but the whole question paper as well.